have to get these thoughts out somehow. And now, on my way to work, this is how I'm going to have to do it. Yesterday was May 24th, 2022. You know, when I woke up, it was just a normal day. The only thing special about the day was it was effectively the last day of school for my kids. Because, you know, when they go to Nork Digital Academy, which is an online, you know, virtual learning situation. And, you know, they finished up all their work and we had to turn in their computers, their school provided computers. You know, that part was all well and good. So, what's the big deal? After I took them to their mothers, I came back home and I saw the news. Another shooting. Within 10 days of a massacre that happened in a grocery store named Tops in Buffalo, New York, we have another shooting in a elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. Another shooting. Let's just about 9.5 years after the Newtown, Connecticut Sandy Hook Elementary shooting, where 26 people died, including 20 children. Right now, the death toll, as of the last time I looked, was 19 children and 2 adults. That's not including the shooter. 21 people, including 19 children. You know, with Newtown, those children, their deaths, they were the exact same age. They were like 6-year-olds. Exact same age as my son at the time. It was just days before his 6th birthday. He was in kindergarten at the time. It crushed me when that happened. It literally took me months to get past the mourning phase. I grieved for months over that, and they were definitely not my kids. But as a society, I don't see why we don't all treat every child as our own. We should all be collectively disturbed by this in a way that grips at our very soul. And while everyone seemingly acts like that's the case, you have a group of people who seriously could care less about the deaths of children when it involves us maybe having to have a discussion about restricting the access to guns for certain people who have no need to ever be around guns. That is what disturbs me more than anything here in this discussion. Is that we honestly have people who could care less. People who prefer an inanimate object over a living, breathing person, whether it's a child or not. I mean, but they still don't care even when it is a child. The children who were slaughtered yesterday in Texas were roughly around between 8 and 10 years old, basically. They were predominantly fourth graders, third and fourth graders. I believe there were even some second graders in there. And, you know, I'm looking on Facebook. I'm basically freaking out on there. And it took me a minute. I ain't gonna lie. It took me probably about a couple hours for it to really start getting me, especially as I thought more about it. Because I had to do something to distract myself, for the most part. And then when I no longer had the distraction, it just all came out. I get to looking on Facebook, and I don't see a whole lot of people talking about it. And it, like, I see a handful, but my freak out internally just started building as I saw people just like not saying anything. I'm like, what's going on? And then of course the usual arguments over guns start, and it's like, you've got to be kidding me. So I mean, this should be easy. We should just be like, okay, this person was able to buy a gun that he shouldn't have had, but he was able to get it. Why? Why did he need a weapon? Why didn't he need that kind of weapon? We really, as a society, have no answer for this. Except that there is an industry that profits from death and fear. That industry, among others, that industry is the gun lobby. Sorry about that beeping in the background. I was backing up into a parking spot at work. But that industry, just, they depend on fear, on ignorance, and on the corruption of our government, on money and politics. And unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of members of Congress and the rest of our elected body of human beings here in the United States, overwhelming majority of them are basically bought and paid for by the gun lobby. That includes Democrats. A significant chunk of Democrats. Pretty much all the Republicans, but a significant chunk of Democrats too. Which is why nothing ever gets done. Because these assholes care more about being reelected than they do about saving lives, including the lives of children. And their solution, from the talking points they get from the NRA and other parts of the gun lobby, their solution is, well, just make sure everyone has a gun. You just got to make sure everyone can carry a gun a piece everywhere. You know, turn everything into a Clint Eastwood Western movie. Turn everything into that. The Wild West. Just have a shootout. That's their solution. They don't even want to ponder the possibility of making sure that some asshole can't get a gun to begin with. Now you try to bring up, oh, make sure everyone has to have a background check. Nah, no, background checks don't work. They do. They do work. Making sure we deal with straw purchasing. Nope, that doesn't work. Nope, don't do that. Don't do that. Take care of the gun show loophole. Oh, nope. Can't do that. Nope. I mean, making sure people have to get a license to get a gun. Nope. No restrictions. No restrictions at all. Between Newtown and Uvalde, just those two elementary schools alone, it's not including middle schools and high schools, but between the two elementary schools, we've had just under 40 children get slaughtered. And unfortunately, even with a Democratic majority in Congress, in both houses, albeit a thin majority, Sorry. Even with that thin majority, nothing's going to get done. President Biden may be the only one who will actually try to do anything, but his powers are limited via executive orders, which can always be overturned either between the Supreme Court, any of the federal courts, and, well, the next president, which will probably be Trump or some other stupid Republican. I, for the life of me, cannot. I cannot, in any way, shape, or form, grasp why human beings in this country are so stupid that they have to say, yep, my gun matters more than your children. Like, nope, you can't take this. My right to have whatever guns I want, you can't restrict it. Nope. It's like, I know for a fact that the Founding Fathers did not intend for this kind of madness to be protected. They for sure, I'm very sure, they for sure would not have allowed people to own, AK-47s or, any weapon that's similar to it, a semi-automatic weapon. I mean, as people have mentioned before, the Second Amendment was written at a time when you had muskets. When it took you a few minutes to reload. It's absurd. I can imagine they would have agreed with the notion that we should have registration, licensure, training as at least, a basic minimum alongside background checks, universal background checks. They're like, nope, these laws don't work. People will get guns no matter what. People are stupid, selfish, and children will continue to die because of the dumbasses in elected government and the ridiculously selfish assholes who elect them. I hate it here. It's just disgusting. Guess who's back? Back again. Yes. Daniel Crawford's back here. And things are obviously going to be different with this show, the Omnicast moving forward. Because, I haven't, recorded anything for a minute. And things have just been really hectic. In the, month and a half since I last recorded, a lot of things have happened in the world. And also in professional wrestling. That I haven't talked about. I'm not going to talk about all that now. I'm going to try to do an overview show, maybe once a month, maybe even before the predictions. I don't know, but I was going to do a top 5 or something of everything that I've liked in my absence. But let's just cover a few highlights. So one of the primary highlights is sadly that Cody Rhodes was injured at Hell in a Cell, and it was a really good match between Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. At Hell in a Cell, Cody Rhodes had ripped the pectoral muscle, apparently off the bone, and he still competed even with that injury. Cody Rhodes is just awesome. That match, like I said, delivered, and hopefully he has a speedy recovery. I slightly suspect that he will be back way earlier than scheduled, but we'll see. I also, of course, earlier in June, on June 3rd, my kids and I attended SmackDown. That was our, I want to say, maybe our 4th together. That was my 5th WWE show, Austin and Madison's 4th. And it was fun. Now, it was their least favorite out of all the shows that we've attended. There was a few light things that happened here and there, but it was still good. It was still fun. They always make it entertaining. Especially the dark match at the end of the show was really good.
That was between The Miz and AJ Styles. AJ Styles, of course, won, but it was really fun. So we enjoyed that. And, of course, moving on, I always say if you ever get a chance to attend a WWE show live, do so, because you won't regret it. I really doubt you'll ever regret it. Aside from that, of course, also had some really good stuff in WWE with Kevin Owens and the whole Ezekiel Elias storyline. Kevin Owens has just been delivering, so has Ezekiel. This has been gold, and I've been loving every second of it. Of course, they had this whole thing where Elias comes out alongside, sort of alongside Ezekiel, using camera tricks basically, and just Kevin Owens is the only one who sees through everything. But then, of course, they did some camera tricks to where Ezekiel was waiting for Kevin Owens in the back after Elias, and Kevin Owens just interacted. So, a lot of good fun there. Some of the best stuff that's been going on in WWE. Sadly, Randy Orton was also sidelined during this period of time that I've been gone, and he's been out of action. Riddle's, of course, become a singles superstar, which, he's really over. Some would probably even predict that Riddle would win the Money in the Bank match later tonight. I'll get into that momentarily. But, Riddle's been delivering. He's been great. Another person who's been delivering has been Theory. Theory has just been top-notch in the story with Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title. But Theory also is being slated, it looks like, for a rivalry with John Cena whenever John Cena officially returns to the ring. Just good stuff all around. SmackDown has also been decent. Of course, the show that we attended, the kids and I, was an episode of SmackDown. And, you've had this build towards Money in the Bank and SummerSlam going on at the same time. Natalya and Ronda Rousey had a confrontation at that episode of SmackDown that the kids and I were at. Actually, the crowd kind of popped for Natalya when she won. They were more into Natalya than what the cameras will seemingly have you believe. A lot of people in the internet land like to shit on Natalya, but the crowd really doesn't hate her as much. And the same thing for Shayna. Shayna had an interesting, reaction too. One last thing I will mention, actually the second to last thing I will mention, is Walter/Gunther has been excellent. And he became the Intercontinental Champion in their interim here, defeating Ricochet. But this guy, he's just been getting better and better every week. And he's just been gold. Actually, you know what? I lied. This is the second to last thing I'll mention. The wrestler formerly known as LA Knight/Eli Drake is now Max Dupree. And he has this group called Maximum Male Models with Mace, formerly known as Mace, and Masur, formerly known as Mansoor. And they had this debut for this group this past week on SmackDown, and holy crap, it was probably the funniest stuff I've seen on WWE or wrestling in general in a long time. Just gold, top-notch stuff. Really has me excited to see what they're going to do with this in the future, because it was... I really hope they keep going with this, because it was great. It was great. Mixed reviews from fans on the internet, but for the most part, it looks like it's been positive, and I just really had fun watching it. Okay, so let's get into this last thing I want to mention, which is that Roman Reigns had retained his undisputed WWE Universal title against Riddle on SmackDown a few weeks ago, only to have Brock Lesnar return. Brock Lesnar, of course, and Roman Reigns are going to have a last man standing match in the main event of SummerSlam for the title. I guarantee this looks like this will be probably the second to the last match for Brock Lesnar, or maybe third to last, but it's up there. It's within his last matches, it looks like. And he's trying to do a swan song here, it looks like. And I think this is going to be a good match. I doubt that a last man standing match will be his absolute last match, but we'll see. Lesnar is just awesome. I can't wait for this match. This will definitely be the last match, I think, between them. And so we'll see where this goes. The build should be fun, because Lesnar is always great at making things look very exciting, in anticipation. At least for me, he is. And that brings us to Money in the Bank. So let's get on with the predictions. All right, I'm just going to go down the list of the matches as listed by Wikipedia. U.S. title match, I believe Theory is going to retain over Bobby Lashley. Lashley has been great, and of course he's being booked as like kind of the top babyface on Raw at the moment, with Cody Rhodes being absent. But Theory, I think it might be too soon to take the title off him. Now, of course, They could have something where Cena kind of costs Theory the match, but I think Theory is going to hold on to this U.S. title, and he's going to find some way to cheat to win. It should be good. I'm looking forward to it. All right, number 2 here. The tag team titles, the Usos, I think, will retain over the Street Profits. Nothing against the Street Profits because they're great and they're deserving of titles, but I just don't see anyone from the Bloodline losing, not before either SummerSlam or the next WrestleMania. Like, it's... Yeah, I think that they're trying to build that aura of dominance as much as possible. I just don't see the Usos losing, especially with Roman being out of the picture at this moment. So, should be a good match, but that's how I think it's going to go. SmackDown Women's Championship, it's obvious to me that Ronda Rousey is going to retain over Natalya. That Rousey actually still gets decent reactions. Despite all the hate for her online, Rousey may leave a little bit to be desired on the mic when she's a babyface, although she's an excellent heel. I really wish they'd turn her heel again, but she's an excellent heel. But Natalya will fall short, and Rousey will force her to submit. Of course, this is the second match in a row where they're really building around this whole story that Rousey's never tapped out. So Natalya's actually a pretty good opponent, whether people want to admit that or not. Number 4 here, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I think the winner will be Lacey Evans. So this was actually kind of a hard choice for me because you had Lacey Evans, you have Becky Lynch in this match, you have Shotzi, you have Alexa Bliss, you have Raquel Gonzalez. I mean, you have a pretty good, and I didn't even mention, like, Liv Morgan. You have a number of women who could conceivably win. I am leaving, like, 1 or 2 out, not being mentioned here. But those are, like, probably the realistic chances, like, realistic options for winning, the ones I've mentioned. Absent maybe Shotzi. But, and I love Shotzi Blackheart, don't get me wrong, but she's just not winning this match. I would be really shocked if she does. But Lacey Evans is going to walk away with this, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it just seems like the most likely. I would love to see Alexa or Becky win because they're two of my absolute favorite of all time. But Lacey's winning. All right, men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I will mention this as kind of, well, although I think this is actually going to be the main event, I think Drew McIntyre is going to win. And this is going to be, this was actually even harder for me to predict, but I do think Drew's going to win. I would love to see Sami Zayn win because this whole idea of him holding on to the contract for a year to help Roman Reigns hold the title longer. Excuse me. That whole concept is hilarious to me, just because he calls himself the honorary Uce. But Drew McIntyre is likely winning this thing and will kind of, like, I guess, solidify his cash-in for that Clash at the Castle, which we already know that he's going to be challenging for the undisputed WWE Universal title at that event, because it's in Europe. But there you have it with those, and now, of course, finally, number 6, the Raw Women's title. I believe, obviously, Bianca Belair is going to retain over Carmella. There's just no way, no chance in hell they're taking this title off of Bianca before SummerSlam at the earliest, and I think they actually may have Bianca hold the title until WrestleMania. So, I mean, it's just great. This is going to be a fun show, I think. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get ready for Money in the Bank.
So, don't mind the air conditioner in the back. I think this country is in danger. Actually, the entire planet is in danger. Excuse me, I'm going to have to sneeze here in a second. Damn pollen. So as of this recording, which I'm recording July 1st, 2022, Still got another recording that I gotta post before I post this one. I might even post this one the same time I do that one. But as of this recording, this country and this planet is in a critical state. I think that this entire planet, all of humanity, but also the entire planet, is in its worst state and its most danger since at least the Cold War, but I even think it's going back all the way to World War II. And this ranges from the threat of authoritarianism to the threat of global war, and even covering extinction via all of human activity that is destructive to the environment, which itself ranges from climate change to pollution, overfishing and all that. So we are, if I were to be in charge of the doomsday clock, I would put us at 1 second to midnight. 1 second to midnight. Because I really do think we are right there. And here in the United States, liberty, the republic, the Constitution, all that, democracy, it's in serious peril. In serious peril. About, 8 days ago today, on June 25th, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned Roe versus Wade, as well as a slew of other rulings, and also the Planned Parenthood versus Casey case as well. They overruled those, as well as weakened Miranda rights. They weakened native tribes, their sovereignty. They weakened gun laws, and they significantly weakened the EPA and its ability to regulate greenhouse gases. And this all comes at a time when we are in the midst of midterm election cycle. Democrats have a very thin majority in Congress, both houses of Congress. And we look like we are beginning a recession, because I just read there was an indicator, there was a very reliable indicator that shows today that we are actually already in a recession, with gas prices here in the United States hovering around $5 a gallon, with the likelihood of going up even higher. The world continues to teeter on the brink of another global war, thanks to Russia and Ukraine and NATO. Honestly, there's not a lot of reason to hope. There's not. And you see, authoritarianism is spreading worldwide. And it's going either one of two ways, on this planet. Either people are waking up and empowering themselves collectively, coming together and electing left-wing governments. But those are largely in countries without strong democracies, where they have a history of authoritarianism. So, unfortunately, there is a strong possibility that those left-wing governments could also turn authoritarian. Which, sorry to tell my leftist friends, I'm a leftist myself, but left-wingers can be authoritarians as well. We can. I mean, it's not that hard to become an authoritarian. It's not something that's exclusive to the right wing. Right-wing authoritarianism is definitely scarier, because there's no benefits for the population, and it's just all individually beneficial, with self-enrichment and all that. But you also have, that's happening in a lot of countries that are definitely third world, where left-wing governments are being elected and rising up. But like I said, it's happening in countries that have a recent history of authoritarianism. Meanwhile, in Europe and other parts of the world with so-called advanced democracies, you have right-wing authoritarian governments being elected as well. And they're rising up and subverting their democracies. You have that happening. Excuse the beeping in the background. So, what are we to do? What is our recourse? simply is to wake up and realize the real enemy here is the oligarchy. And it is not just an American oligarchy, it is a global oligarchy, empowered by capitalism and buoyed by faux democracy, like ours, where we have the false choice between two corporate parties, which is, a common false choice in a lot of so-called advanced democracies. They'll have multiple parties, but typically one of only two actually have a chance because of corporate interests. So that's what we have to do, and the time is running out thanks to the climate crisis, and it's time that we wake up, and we have to recognize what's happening here. Read the book Democracy in Chains, which of course we're running out of time to even sit down and read a book about these things to understand everything, but that book, the author, she's a historian, she talks about how Augusto Pinochet rose to power in Chile with the help of American financiers like the Koch brothers. And basically they created a model for what they wanted to do in the United States. They destroyed their social welfare programs, rewrote their constitution to make it almost impossible to bring those programs back. But they also established fascist governments as well. You need to look at what they're doing, because they're wanting to bring that model here. It's time to wake up. And time, like I said before, is running out. 1 second to midnight, maybe even less.